witches! So today is going to be a little bit more of a chatty, talky video, which is kind of what I call ranting at you guys for about 15 minutes. Super unhinged, super fun, so buckle up. Now today, if you guys couldn't tell by the title of my video, we're going to be talking about some misconceptions that I've heard about deity work, maybe 11 years, but either way, I wanted to at least share my perspective on some of the questions or some of the things that I've seen popping up around the internet, because I feel like there are some not major misconceptions, but some misconceptions or some things that are causing people anxiety when it comes to confronting deity work or starting their deity work journey. So hopefully I can give you guys a little bit of peace of mind in that. That's the goal. The first thing that I do want to say in this video is the fact that in order to be a witch, you do not have to work with deities, which is something that I feel like is not talked about a whole lot. I feel like when people are introduced specifically to Wicca, as many of us were, it's kind of just assumed that you're gonna work with deities or have some sort of religious ties to not extraterrestrial, what am I trying to say, entities that are outside of yourself. And that is simply not the truth. If you are a witch who simply wants to work with the energies of the earth and the planet or the universe, whatever that looks like for you, that is perfectly valid, and you do not need to work with deities, entities, or spirits or anything like that in order to be a valid witch and practice witchcraft. So again, witchcraft is that practice of using magic, and if you guys would like to see a video about that, I made one a couple weeks ago. And it is not necessarily tied to a specific religion. So you could be of any religion and still be a witch. When we are on the topic of religion, I did want to mention that not all pantheons are open and free for you to just work with in your practice. So there are certain religions and spiritual practices that are closed either to a cultural group, or you need to be initiated into that religious practice or spiritual practice before claiming that title for yourself. So generally speaking, indigenous religions and spiritual practices are closed to anyone who is not an indigenous person, to whatever area that is. It could be Australia, it could be South America, it could be Northern America. If you are, not from that culture, you might have things that are close to you that you are not allowed to engage with. This idea also extends to a lot of Afro-Caribbean religions, so things such as voodoo, or I am half Puerto Rican, so I am more familiar with Santeria. I'm not going to sit here and say that I am a Santera because I have never studied it, practiced it, or talked to an elder within that religion. So I am never going to be one. I'm never going to be one to claim that title because it doesn't belong to me. Other religions do require initiation rites, so let's chat about that, because there's one that I feel like a lot of us are pretty familiar with. If you are like me and have a Wiccan background, at least when I was first studying stuff, there seemed to be a lot of importance on being initiated, and the period of study, a year and a day traditionally, of studying Wicca, its kind of core tenets, principles, and the idea of using witchcraft, magic, following and honoring the holidays on the wheel of the year, stuff like that, understanding what the religion was really about before claiming that title of Wiccan or witch or whatever. Now, there might not be as much importance. As always, there is always going to be kind of an exception to the rule. So that may not be your experience. Totally cool. It was really my experience. Any religion that requires you to undergo a period of training or perhaps go through some sort of initiation rite is generally seen as a semi-closed religion. So it is easier for you to convert. Wicca is super easy to convert to if you're willing to put in the time. Another good example of this is Judaism. If you're trying to convert into Judaism, there are very rigorous steps that you have to go through in order to claim that title of being a Jewish person. So or practicing Judaism, I should say, because that's kind of an ethno religion. Hi, my mom is Jewish, so I know a little bit about that. Jewish and Puerto Rican. Me, hello. But these closed religions should be treated with respect, and I encourage you guys to do your research on any sort of practice that you're doing, whether it comes from an open pantheon or a closed pantheon, a closed religion or an open practice, whatever that might be for you. Do your research before engaging with it and just be really sure that you're allowed to practice it. Now, on the converse of that, let's talk about open pantheons. So I guess the most generally accepted ones that I see the most frequently include the ancient Greek pantheon, the ancient Roman pantheon, the ancient Norse pantheon, the ancient Egyptian pantheon, the ancient Celtic pantheons, since the term Celtic kind of encompasses a lot of different cultures, indeed. So if you are interested in working with Celtic gods, learn more about their mythology and where they're from and like their region for sure. But just because a pantheon is considered open or that anyone can really engage with these entities or spiritual practices doesn't mean that it shouldn't be treated with respect. There might be aspects of that pantheon or that religion that are closed or that you need to be initiated into, I guess, if that makes sense. And as a practitioner who does worship and work with deities from different pantheons, I think it is like of the utmost importance to not only understand the mythology behind the deities and the pantheons that they exist in, but to also understand the historical context in which these deities existed and the reasons that they existed. So I think one of the most like famous examples that I see on the internet of a like story that might get taken out of context or is kind of misrepresented is the rape of Persephone. And that is kind of seen sometimes as like, oh, they fell in love and she spends half the time down in the underworld and, you know, and the other time up on the, you know, in our world, and that's why we have spring and summer. And it's like, no, Hades was rejected, kidnapped her, and Demeter's sorrow and grief over her missing daughter are why we have winter. Obviously, that was that story boiled down into 2 sentences. Please go read the actual text. I will link it down below, if that is something. So, doing your research includes not only understanding the mythology and knowing what to offer this deity and how to work with them in a kind of witchy way, but also understanding the history, the mythology, and the like current events of that area of the world, I think is very important to a practitioner as well. Another misconception that I feel like it is very important for me to address is the fact that like the gods are not angry at you, they are not going to smite you, and they are not going to like curse you or ruin your life on the behalf of another practitioner. So if someone is saying that to you, I would definitely take it with a grain of salt and like absolutely block that person. Definitely would put up some more protections in case they're just like throwing negativity at you, obviously. Like cleanse and protect always. But if someone is specifically saying like, okay, I'm sending, you know, this deity to like come after you and blah, 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 I would definitely just take that with a grain of salt because in my experience, deities do not obey mortals, right? So I feel like there is a lot of hubris there, or a lot of ego there to believe that you can in some way command the gods or that the gods are, you know, like obedient to you. Like that to me seems like a little bit like of a red flag personally. In my practice, I have never commanded a deity to do anything. And I've been working with deities for like 11 years. I have always asked, and in general to like other practitioners I've spoken to about this, that's the general consensus as well, is like, hey, I usually ask for help in a baneful working. I don't ask, you know, Hades to curse somebody. Like, not that you would ask Hades in general, but that was the first person I thought of. So if someone has said that to you and you are worried about it, feel free to send me a DM. We can totally talk through it. I've had a couple people actually like reach out to me in the last week, which prompted this video, just saying that a practitioner was telling them that, you know, they were hoping that their deities left them and they were sending a deity to get rid of their, it was like a whole thing. And I was like, so I don't think that's how that works. Like, that's just not gonna work that way. So hopefully that can give you guys some peace of mind. But the like former part of that, the gods are not angry at you or want to smite you. This is another huge one that like I encounter a lot when people are coming to me for advice about their deity work practices, which is awesome. Thank you so much for trusting me with that. Like, I really appreciate it. But your deities, if you make a mistake, and trust me, I am like the king of making mistakes, they're not going to like smite you because you get something wrong. Your deities know that you're human and that making mistakes and learning from them is so intrinsically human, it would be wrong to expect anything like less or more from us, right? A lot of my practice and the way that I have learned and studied witchcraft has been through making mistakes and then just like not doing that again, you know? So if you are kind of like holding yourself back from experiencing deity work, you're like really interested in it and you really want to start learning about it, and you are afraid because, you know, you don't want to disrespect a deity, I would say that like that mindset is actually like in a weird way kind of good, because that just tells me that you are into this, like for real, and that you are going to, in your practice, do your best to make sure that you are doing everything respectfully, and that in and of itself is something that is very like honorable and should be commended. And I'm sure that the deities that you work with will appreciate it. So don't worry, they're not mad at you. Your deities want the best for you. And again, if anyone is telling you like, you know, Zeus is angry, and through your divination, through your workings, you're like, it doesn't seem like he is, I would take that person's word with kind of a grain of salt. And just to take that point like the tiniest bit further, I really feel like a lot of the time the anxiety that we have like around deity work stems from ideals that we might have from like recently leaving Christianity, or like trauma that was incurred within the church or within Christianity. And I can confidently say that was definitely the case for me. It may not be the case for you. Again, I don't know where everyone's coming from in their journey, but I do feel like a lot of the time when people are like afraid that the gods are going to be angry at them, like it's because they learned that somewhere, you know what I mean? And maybe it was just like the joke like, oh, the gods will smite you, but in reality, your deities want the best for you, and they are not going to be mad at you, like I said. And whenever I come up against kind of like feelings like that, what I tend to do and what I encourage you guys to do as well, if you kind of have experienced this, is to like pause and try to like figure out why you're feeling that way. So if you are like really hesitant to start deity work because just like you're overwhelmed and like you don't want to do anything wrong. Why do you not want to do anything wrong? Because in the past, maybe you were told that you have to be perfect all the time in order to be valid in your spirituality. And take me as the poster child of that not being true, because I am, again, the king of mistakes. Hello, where is my crown? And I just want you guys to know that if you are leaving Christianity, if you're kind of still unpacking some of like that stuff, or like some of your ideals surrounding that religion, or even like changing any sort of religion, coming from another religion into a different sort of spirituality, or this, you know, earth-based practice, or witchcraft in general, I really hope that that kind of, I don't know, explains some of it. Understand that it's okay to feel that way. It's probably stemming from like the fact that your belief system is changing a little bit, and it's super normal to be a little bit uncomfortable when that happens. And I still face discomfort in my own practice to this day, so don't worry. It does get better, I promise. I definitely feel my spiritual practice has like deepened and become very like personal for me since I have changed the frame of how I understand the nature of deities and the nature of the universe outside the framework of Christianity. So like looking at things from a pagan perspective has just really helped me a lot. So if that resonates with you, don't worry, it's just Christianity. No, I'm just kidding. But I do hope that if you were kind of confused about that before, you're just like, why do I feel like this? If that maybe gave you some clarity or some comfort, I hope it did. And just know that, you know, it's, again, practice. Just know that by engaging with these deities, these different pantheons, by learning about them, by understanding the mythology, and continuing to study witchcraft and your spirituality, whatever that might be, whatever religious structure or spiritual structure you adhere to, that's like what the whole word practice is about, right? You're totally allowed to make mistakes. So don't worry about that. Don't get too in your heads. Go say hi to your deities for me. Maybe like light their candles if you haven't recently. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.